Tonight we celebrate Mass together in La Votive, in the midst of the great pilgrimage site known as La Villa de Guadalupe in Mexico City. La Votive means votive, referring to offerings made in gratitude or petition to God. Here in Mexico, many pilgrims speak of a votive chapel as the place where prayer intentions are offered, candles are lit, and thanksgiving is expressed for answered prayers. So when pilgrims come here, they don't come empty-handed. They come carrying intentions, sometimes spoken and sometimes too deep for words. A sick child, a broken relationship, the conversion of a loved one, or simply a longing for hope. And then they leave something behind, a lighted candle, a prayer, a tear, a promise. This is what the Church calls a votive offering, something given to God in trust or in thanksgiving. Now, a week later, his disciples were again inside, and Thomas was with them. Jesus came, although the doors were locked, and stood in their midst and said, "Peace be with you." And then he said to Thomas, "Put your finger here and see my hands, and bring your hand and put it into my side, and do not be unbelieving, but believe." Thomas answered and said to him, "My Lord and my God." Christians have been telling the Easter story for more than 2,000 years for one very important reason. The empty tomb means that there is hope. And we keep telling that story in every generation because we ourselves need to hear it again. Because the world can seem so dark, especially if we've lived long enough to know the reality of loss and death. We experience it in our own personal losses, and we see it in the violence of nation against nation, of human being against human being. Our news media are filled with bad news, and sometimes our hearts grow so heavy that it can be a chore simply to get out of bed. If we are too full of doubt, skepticism, fear, anger, or sadness, it can be difficult to see evidence of the resurrection. And yet, it was precisely into a world like that that Christ rose from the dead. And it was into a world that seemed hopeless that God sent the consolation of Our Lady of Guadalupe. When she appeared in 1531 to the humble indigenous Christian catechumen Juan Diego, the people of his land were living through enormous suffering and upheaval. Cultures had been shattered, families divided, and many people felt forgotten. Hope was in awfully short supply. But the Mother of the Lord appeared to a poor man on a hillside and spoke words of extraordinary tenderness. "Am I not here, I who am your mother?" In other words, God has not abandoned you. There is hope. The same message lies at the heart of today's gospel from the Gospel of John. In the figure of St. Thomas the Apostle, we meet a disciple who is struggling to believe that message. Thomas had followed Jesus, listened to his sermons, watched him heal the sick and feed the hungry and defend the poor and the oppressed. But Thomas had also watched Jesus die. And with him, something inside Thomas died too. His hopes, his expectations, his sense of the future. Thomas had hitched his star to Jesus' star, and now the whole thing had come crashing down. Thomas is shaken, afraid, lost, maybe even bitter. Such is the power of death. But much to Thomas's credit, he showed up anyway. he showed up in that upper room with the other disciples, and lo and behold, so did Jesus. See, sometimes that's all it takes, just showing up. Showing up with our faith strong, or showing up even when our faith feels fragile. Showing up with our questions. Showing up with our doubts. The important thing is showing up. Thomas didn't abandon the community, and because he stayed within that community despite his doubts, he encountered the risen Lord. His faith was restored in the midst of the community of believers. Such is the power of hope. And just look at us today. We too have shown up. Pilgrims from many places have come here to the shrine of Our Lady of Guadalupe. Some of us arrive full of faith. Others may arrive carrying burdens, doubts, or worries. But we show up anyway. And right here at the Basilica of Our Lady of Guadalupe, we look upon the miraculous image on the Tilma of Juan Diego, that simple cloak on which the Virgin left her image nearly 5 centuries ago. And when we look closely at that Tilma, we notice something beautiful and something astounding as well. The stars on her mantle reflect the very constellations that appeared in the Mexican sky on the morning of December 12, 1531. In other words, the heavens themselves seem to be mirrored in her cloak. It is as if creation itself is proclaiming a message. Even when the world seems dark, God has not abandoned his people. And Our Lady of Guadalupe stands quietly among us, leading us always to her Son.
You are the star of the ocean. My boat is small, and the waves are so high. But with you to guide me, I'll reach my homeland. Maria, oh most merciful Mother, gentle Virgin, with the name Guadalupe. On a mountain, we find roses in winter. All the world has been touched by your love.
A group of researchers once studied the dietary habits of the Amish in the United States in order to understand how they remain so healthy, significantly healthier than the general American adult population. And they came up with what they called the Amish diet. Now, the diet itself is simple and quite appealing. You can eat almost anything you want: meat, potatoes, bread, butter, pies, cakes. The Amish are well known for their delicious, healthy, and calorie-laden dishes and delicious desserts. Sounds good, no? But there is a catch. The catch is you have to walk at least 10,000 steps each and every day. In fact, Amish men average closer to 18,000 steps per day, and Amish women around 14,000 steps a day. So how do they do it? Well, partly because of their lifestyle, but even more because they live within strong and supportive faith communities. And it's so much easier to walk when someone is walking with you. And the Amish do a lot of walking together. There is a spiritual lesson here. It is much easier to face the temptations of doubt and despair, of hopelessness and selfishness when we don't walk alone. Faith becomes stronger when it's lived in community. That's what happened to Thomas, and that's what happens to us today. We gather together, we break bread together, and we walk with God by walking side by side with one another. Here in this holy place, beneath the loving gaze of Our Lady of Guadalupe, we are reminded of the same truth that Thomas discovered in that upper room. The risen Christ still comes into our locked rooms. He still speaks peace to troubled hearts. He still turns doubt into faith. And if we keep showing up together, we may find ourselves able to say with Thomas, "My Lord and my God." Just as Thomas encountered the risen Christ in the upper room, and just as Juan Diego saw the Mother of God on Tepeyac, we too discover today, here in the presence of Our Lady of Guadalupe, that hope is never lost and that God's love will always find us wherever we may be.
You are the fountain of my life. Under your shadow and in your protection, I fear no evil, no pain, no worries. Maria, almost merciful Mother, gentle Virgin, with the name Guadalupe. On a mountain, we find roses in winter. All the world has been touched by your love.